Once upon a time in the depths of winter, a queen sat sewing by her window, framed in black ebony. As she sewed, she pricked her finger with her needle, and 3 drops of blood fell on the snow. The sight of the red blood on the white snow was so beautiful that she said, "Oh, how I wish that I had a daughter who had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as the wood of this window frame." Soon after, the queen gave birth to a baby girl who was indeed as she had wished, and they named her Snow White. Sadly, the queen died shortly after giving birth. A year later, the king remarried. His new wife was very beautiful, but she was also proud and cruel. She possessed a magical mirror, and every day she would stand before it and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." This pleased the queen greatly, as she knew the mirror spoke the truth. Snow White grew up to become a beautiful young woman, even more beautiful than the queen. One day when the queen asked her mirror who the fairest in the land was, it replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is even fairer than you." The queen was consumed with jealousy and fury. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest, kill her, and bring back her heart as proof. The huntsman obeyed, but when he took Snow White into the forest and drew his knife, he could not bring himself to kill her. Overcome with pity, he told her to run away and never return to the castle. He killed a wild boar and took its heart to the queen instead. Snow White wandered through the forest, frightened and alone. She came across a small cottage and went inside to rest. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who were away working in the mines. When they returned home, they found Snow White asleep in one of their beds. She awoke and told them her story. The dwarfs took pity on her and offered her shelter in exchange for helping with the household chores. Snow White gladly accepted. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the queen asked her mirror once more, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White, beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarfs, is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen was livid. She disguised herself as an old peddler woman and went to the dwarf's cottage. She offered Snow White a bodice lace and persuaded her to try it on. The queen laced it so tightly that Snow White could not breathe and fell down as if dead. The dwarfs found her and loosened the lace, reviving her. The queen, furious that her plan had failed, tried again. This time she disguised herself as a different old woman and offered Snow White a poisoned comb. When Snow White used the comb, she fell down unconscious. The dwarfs returned and removed the comb, saving her once again. Determined to succeed, the queen made a 3rd attempt. She disguised herself as a farmer's wife and offered Snow White a poisoned apple. Snow White hesitated, but the queen was cunning. She cut the apple in half, eating the harmless half herself and giving the poisoned half to Snow White. As soon as Snow White took a bite, she fell into a deep death-like sleep. When the dwarfs returned, they could not revive her. Believing her dead, they placed her in a glass coffin and mourned her. Time passed, and one day, a prince traveling through the forest saw Snow White in her coffin and fell in love with her.